Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Plenty of Newcastle United content coming your way. Today's video is all about the beast in the middle, Joelinton. For me, Newcastle United's most consistent performer this season. Unfortunately, he picked up his 10th yellow card of the season, which means he'll miss the next two games. That's against Wolves and against Nottingham Forest. Two really important games when you look at Newcastle's form of late. Two games that you would probably say Newcastle have to win if they're to maintain a challenge for the top four, if they're to get Champions League football. Of late, they've played the likes of Liverpool, Man City, Man United, and haven't played poorly. They've just not been able to go up the level needed to beat these top teams. No disrespect to Wolves and Nottingham Forest. You will be targeted in these games as games that you want to win, that you should be winning as Newcastle United. And one man I think would have relished the challenge would have been Joelinton in that midfield alongside his countryman Bruno. They've looked really good together. I'm looking forward to seeing them in the future, getting more games under the belt, working closely together, hopefully alongside another top-class midfielder. But for the time being, it's all about how you replace Joelinton in the next couple of weeks. To lose him for these two games is a massive, massive blow. For me, Newcastle United have not got another like him in the side, which makes him hard to replace. There's no one like him that gets a foot into the opposition, that rattles the opposition and then can carry the ball forward like he can. Yes, he doesn't score as many goals as we'd like, and that's something he needs to add to his game. But then Bruno's only scored 3 goals this season, so that is a problem for the whole of the midfield, not just Joelinton. But I honestly think if Joelinton could just add a few goals to his game, we wouldn't be far off talking about one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. And I get that that is a massive statement to put out there, but it's a statement that I properly and truly believe. He's just unbelievable. He's been Newcastle's most consistent performer this season. I know people will look at Miguel Almiron and say 10 goals, and you look at Bruno and say he's just a class above. But for me, Joelinton has performed week in and week out. And when he's not on form, Newcastle are a lesser side. And when he's not in the side, Newcastle really do struggle. You know, who's going to replace him against Wolves and Forest? Is it going to be Joe Willock comes in? Most likely, you would say. Maybe Elliot Anderson. I think it probably will be Joe Willock. But Joe Willock is a completely different player to that of Joelinton. You lose the muscle, you lose the strength, you lose that kind of enforcer in the middle. Who would have thought it, sitting here saying how much we're going to miss Joelinton in midfield, given he was signed as a £40 million striker and Newcastle number 9 who couldn't score for love nor money, and now we're talking about him as this, cornerstone of the midfield. It is rather bizarre, I think. And then, we look ahead to the summer window. Newcastle will need another midfielder to come in, maybe a Declan Rice kind of player, someone like that, James Ward-Prowse. But whoever it will be, will play alongside Joelinton and Bruno, you would imagine. And that's how far Joelinton has come. And that gives you, sadly, a little, even more reason to suspect Newcastle will really miss him against Wolves. It's going to be a really devastating loss. I mean, I've got some statistics here. Joelinton, 54 tackles this season, ranks first when it comes to all Newcastle United players listed. 39 blocks, ranks second. 32 interceptions, ranks second. Successful take-ons with the ball, 35, ranks second. He's just an absolute beast when it comes to the way he plays. 32 carries of the ball in the final third, ranks second. He's covered 1,642 yards with the ball, 767 recoveries. He is instrumental to Newcastle's success this season. For the remainder of the season, they need him on form. And it's just really unfortunate that he misses the next 2 games, winnable games, must-win games at the same time as well, if Newcastle are to really challenge for that top 4. You look at the top 4, and Spurs seem to win and then lose and win and lose. It's a bit topsy-turvy. And you look at how they performed against Wolves, and on one hand, you say thank you very much to Wolves for keeping Spurs at bay. On the other hand, it means Wolves come to St James's Park right there behind me, high spirits, their confidence boosted. The new man just come in and really turned it around. I think they're up to 13th in the table. They've been superb. So it would have been a difficult game regardless, but that win against Spurs boosts them. And, without Joelinton in the side, Newcastle will find the task ultimately a lot harder. It's such a shame, But as we're going to hear now from Eddie Howe, Joelinton plays on the edge. So let's hear from Eddie Howe, who spoke after the Man City game down at the Etihad.
Yeah, there probably was, although desperately disappointed that it was today. With the 2 games we've got to come before the international break, that's going to be a long absence for him. I think I thought it was harsh booking today for him. And, he plays on the edge. He's a fierce competitor. I thought he played very well again today. So we're certainly going to miss him.
So there was Eddie Howe, and as you heard, he said about Joelinton playing on the edge, and he has that bit of a needle about him. And that's what I've been really impressed with when it comes to Joelinton. In his first couple of seasons at Newcastle United, he looked really shy. He looked scared of his own shadow, and now he runs around the pitch like he owns it. He lets players know that he's there. Sometimes it might get a bit too much. I remember in the final against Manchester United, he pulls back Bruno Fernandes. It was a needless kind of tug on the shirt, and sometimes he can go in a bit heavy. But do you know what? He's a totally different player to the one we watched all those years ago, who just looked like a fish out of water. He didn't look comfortable in the black and white shirt. He was getting a lot of stick, wasn't he? And for him to come back from that, a lot of it will be down to Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall and the staff and the arm around the shoulder, but a lot is down to him. His own perseverance, his own character, his own willingness to make it at Newcastle United. He's shown himself to be a real character, a man with desire, and he always knew that he could make it in the Premier League, and it's been a joy to watch. And just to be without him for the next couple of games, especially then you've got that international break, haven't you? You would have really, there's no would about it, you wanted him in this start 11 for both games against this relegation threatened Wolves and the relegation threatened Nottingham Forest. You could have imagined him running wild against Forest, maybe not so much against Wolves, but yeah, massive blow. As we said earlier, it's probably likely to be Joe Willock, although you wouldn't mind Elliot Anderson getting a chance here. It's going to be down probably to Sean Longstaff, I think, to stick his foot in on opposition and break up the play. Something he does quite well, Sean Longstaff, not as well as Joelinton in my view. So that's going to be a big dilemma. Who not only replaces Joelinton, but then who stands up as the physical presence in midfield? Maybe Bruno might have to drop back in that instance, which kind of nullifies the threat. But that's the decision Eddie Howe has to make. And it's just bad luck on Newcastle's part, isn't it? They seem to pick up, when they have a full squad, as they've kind of got now, they're pretty much full strength, they then seem to pick up an injury, or they seem to pick up a suspension, and it's really, really frustrating that, these 2 games before the national break, Eddie Howe can't go into them with a full squad to choose from. But that's the bad luck of football. You have to deal with it. Every club will have it, and it's just about whoever gets given the opportunity to replace Joelinton takes it, seizes it, and hopefully helps Newcastle to 6 valuable points and restarts their season, because it's tailed off drastically since the World Cup, after the World Cup, the return from the World Cup, and they really need something to kickstart it again. Hopefully whoever comes in can play a part in getting 6 valuable points in the race for the top 4. But yeah, without Joelinton, it's going to be a huge challenge, I think, to get 6 points. But they're more than capable, just because they haven't got a like-for-like replacement, they've got quality players to replace Joelinton. But yeah, devastating blow. He's not going to be in the side for the next 2 games, but hopefully it means he can rest up, come back after the national break fresh, bit more energy about him. He probably has looked the only one still with a full tank, I think. Is that fair? I would say that. Let me know in the comments if you disagree. I think he's probably the only one whose form hasn't really tailed off of late. I think everyone else has. Kieran Trippier, Callum Wilson. I don't think their form is what we've come to expect. I do think Joelinton's is held out, and that's what makes this even more devastating, that he's not going to be available against these 2, with all due respect, lesser sides to the likes of Liverpool, Man City, Man United and Newcastle have played of late. But yeah, that's it. Joelinton misses the next 2 Premier League games, down to the man who replaces him to turn up. Hopefully they can, and hopefully they can get 2 valuable wins for Newcastle United in the next few weeks.